the team fights, right? While they do have a lot of single target damage with the Sejuani ultimate and the Malzahar ultimate and, you know, Morgana, they ultimately have two big frontliners for the carries to stand behind, and Lucian is very mobile, and while a lot of people think of Malzahar as just someone with an ult, his E and Q are on very low cooldowns, and the W actually does a huge amount of damage as well, so they have that spam ability, and the silence can be very effective at kind of making the enemy very weak in these team fights as well. So that's kind of where Origen will be weak, or sorry, at their strongest. But at the same time, at 2 items, they're actually pretty strong as well because they have things like the Lucian. So I expect a lot of action in the mid game, whereas Vitality's looking for more skirmishes, picks, these kind of things, whereas Origen looking much more to group up and actually fight as a team.
So you have a 2-item skirmish comp versus a 2-item teamfight comp.
Yeah.
Oh, makes sense. Just as a quick note, the first pause was because Mowgli was adjusting his mouse settings. You can see Jizuke helping on the screen. The second pause, we're not quite sure why we paused, then we're back on into the game.
Great.
So, looks like Patrick and Mithy will get just a bit of a head start down towards this bottom side.
It was the squiggly key.
It was the squiggly key.
The bane of us all.
It's fallen off Kissing's keyboard again. Both bot laners actually going to meet up here as the first wave crashes in just a second because the junglers are on the top side of the map.
Yes, but Mowgli is doing a solo clear, which means that Origen shouldn't actually have information on where he is. And having spoken to Origen members, the one thing they always tell me is Cold is really good at tracking the enemy jungle. He knows exactly where he's going to be, what he's going to be up to, and he gives that information to the rest of his team so that they can then play around that, right? So we'll see how well Cold can track Mowgli, and we'll see how the enemy laners respond. And the way to do that is keep an eye on where the vision is and how his teammates respond as a result of that.
I actually think that's a really good point that you bring up because during the week you were explaining something to me about how I used to think Origen were a really passive team. It felt like they really didn't do anything in the early game, that they weren't being proactive or trying to make plays. And you explained to me that it's not that they're passive, it's just they are playing to their win conditions and not having to make those plays.
Often over the last 2 weeks, Origen are focused on drafting very strong lanes. Usually they'd have 2 or 3 winning lanes, which means that they'd be able to just generate an advantage or a lead through playing standard 1v1s or 2 versus 2s. Now, what this meant was that Cold never actually had to gank, he never actually had to force any plays because they would be building advantages in their own lanes, right? The problem then came from when they would just die randomly, whether it be Mithy trying to roam around the map and then he ends up getting caught out, or people actually dying solo in their lanes. The fact that these small mistakes were coming out from Origen meant that they could never translate these small advantages that they built into actual success, which is why all this doubt comes out from Origen right now, and whether or not they can actually compete with the top teams. So
that is always the question for Origen at the moment, sitting at 1 and 3. Vitality, on the other hand, 3 and 1. Took down Misfits at the end of last week, and a lot of their success has been due to their top laner, Cabochard. If you want to see the game through Cabochard's eyes, you can jump on over to twitch.tv/RiotGames2, and you can watch him and his clicks and exactly how he plays this Urgot into Sion matchup now that Urgot has been slightly nerfed on 9.2.
Yamato is a big Cabochard fan, but look at the gank in the mid lane.
Mowgli here, we talked about the 2v2 mid, he lands the Sonic Wave, Root comes out as well, but Cold's here in time, look at the stun on Mowgli, he flashes away. Still on the chase a little bit here, Mowgli will just get that bed up slow, but good escape there, good counter gank from Cold.
Level 4 for Cold versus level 3 of Mowgli. Summoner spells were burnt across the board. Flash ends up going down for Mowgli. Both summoner spells unavailable for Nuke Duck. So that's actually a really big deal for Nuke Duck. I remember what we said in draft. Jizuke and Mowgli will be the duo that will be looking to play around for this Vitality squad, because LeBlanc is a champion you really want to get ahead. So now that he has both his summoners up, I expect a repeat gank in the middle lane for Vitality. Jizuke will be the man that they look to play around.
And they did that so well last week as well. His week 1 wasn't incredible, but his week 2, very strong performances, especially against Misfits. He averaged 35.5 CS up at the 15-minute mark, high damage numbers, and did almost a third of his team's damage.
He was pretty impressive on the LeBlanc. The fact that they banned so many champions to enable him to pick this blind was definitely a big advantage for them. And you know, I said it in the Match of the Week video, I will say it again. The man is good when he gets to make plays, or when he gets to be the carry. He showcased it at World with things like his Echo and his Yasuo as well. very talented player.
We talked about it a little bit at the top of the show as well. You know, Caps is definitely the standout mid laner in Europe at the moment, but Jizuke is definitely putting his hat in the ring for number 2 and number 3. Has been consistently doing it through all of 2018 and now into 2019.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting discussion because last year, I think people quite confidently said it was Caps at number 1, Perks at number 2, and then it was a toss-up between Jizuke and Nuke Duck, right? And then coming into this year, with Perks' move down towards the AD carry position, you would go, well, okay, that means that Caps is number 1, and then Jizuke or Nuke Duck kind of fill into the number 2 spot. And while Nuke Duck hasn't had the best performance with Origen, he's still been a very solid player. He's still done what he's always done, which is be very consistent, be reliable, not really be a detriment to his team, whereas Jizuke has just been a little flashier, you know, he's found those plays. And so I still think they're both very comparable and still in the conversation, but you know, you have many fans that say, well, what about players like Feathervin?
Yeah.
You know, what about Exile? He's been having some pretty solid performances as well. And like, what about Abadage? So it's been very fascinating to see that conversation come back.
So just at the bottom of your screen there, Jacktroll flashed, tried to get the hook onto Nuke Duck, did not connect with it, so that is a summoner down. But we already seeing that roam towards mid from the Thresh. We talked about it a little bit in picks and bans, how they want to focus towards this middle lane. And it does cost Attila a small amount. You know, you look at it, he's at 47 CS, he's down a couple. Mithy can put some pressure on with Patrick, but it's not really too much they're losing out on.
But this is also a really good awareness of win conditions, something that I often praise Vitality for. I think that they always come in with a very strong idea of how they win games. And we talked about it in the draft. Jacktroll will look to roam mid with Mowgli and try and set up Jizuke to get a bunch of kills. You'll notice now that Vitality have no vision in the river. They are blind right now, and so they are afraid of a potential dive bot because their jungler is up towards the top side. Cold isn't actually anywhere near, which means that Attila and Jacktroll are just getting zoned off this tower for free. But now that they have vision of where the jungler is, they can move back towards it, and they can pick up some of that farm.
Jacktroll struggling there against Patrick down to half HP. We talked about the ability of Patrick and Mithy to get that pressure down. That's exactly what they're doing. First parts of items, slash full items are being completed here, and it's a quick silver sash first on Jizuke.
Here we go, he's got his eyes on the duck.
So the big thing for Jizuke is jump forward with the distortion and get rid of that spell shield from the Malzahar, because until you do that, you can't really make a gank work.
Nope. But Nuke Duck very aware, aha, you try and kill me? No, that will not happen. And the really obnoxious thing about Malzahar once he hits level 6 is the root happens. So if you ever overextend, you immediately get punished, right? But also, because there's a delay on the bounce back from LeBlanc's W, you're guaranteed to land an E, the Malefic Vision, every single time. So it gets harder and harder as the game goes on, this matchup, and the fact that Origen haven't given away a kill is definitely a big advantage for them. You'll see down towards the bot side of the map where we said they did have pressure, they're building up a lead, they're chipping away at these towers, and that's where they're getting a lot of their gold.
You see the Malefic Vision lands, Jizuke jumps back, has the blue buff now for a little bit of extra mana regeneration, but struggling to actually shut down Nuke Duck too much. Has a 15 CS lead, so he is doing an okay job.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that first real 2v2 jungle mid play that we expected from Vitality.
Well, we did get that initial gank where
Yes.
we burned the summoners.
I haven't seen him get a kill off one of those
You're
2v2s.
quite right. Yes,
That's what
yes.
I meant.
But the fact is, he still has a lead, and the fact that he hasn't gotten a kill by 8 minutes is not the end of the world. It's the
I like to overreact to things, yes.
it's the 15-minute mark where you start to get worried, because if the game is even, then Origen is in a much better position at that point in the game.
Cabochard trading onto Alfari here. He pops the ultimate to stop Cabochard from getting the disdain. Fear Beyond Death will land, but Alfari flashes away just to make sure that he survives any extra damage that comes out from the Urgot. And we see, has been known for a while that the Sion into Urgot matchup is one that is favored towards the Urgot, and even the 9.2 patch changes the nerfs to the big crab man haven't affected him too badly.
It does make the matchup a little easier for Sion, but still pretty obnoxious. The irony is Alfari actually died 1v1 to Soaz when he was playing the Urgot. But now we see Cold coming towards bot lane, and Origen, they're looking for a play.
Jacktroll puts down the lantern, dodges out, but he can't dodge the Glacial Prison. No flash on Jacktroll. He is down. Mithy secures first blood, and Origen get the first kill of the game.
Now Origen, they wanted to play around bot lane. Vitality had pushed the wave up. Even though they were playing defensively, there was no flash on Jacktroll, so Origen will find their first kill of the game.
Maybe we're seeing the original Thresh from Worlds that you feared from Jacktroll here, losing that first kill. Had burnt his flash mid lane earlier on, of course, looking for the flash hook. Mowgli waiting just around the corner here. If Patrick and Mithy overextend, he can do something. Mithy, of course, no flash left on him. Still has that black shield. There's the sonic wave landing, but Mowgli will just force Patrick and Mithy away for the moment.
Let's have a look. Nothing happens. All right, still. Good play from Origen. Oh, we're gonna get a replay. Nice. I'm happy.
Nice.
So, Colt does get spotted, they know, and you can already see the pings coming out from the bot side of the map. They're like, whoa, play defensively. You can even see where Jackstraw is standing. He's like behind him. He's like, okay, we're fine, we're fine. And then he has a great sidestep here, but that also is like, okay, he has no flash, Colt has ulti. There's nothing you're really gonna do to get out of this situation, which means that a really good gank comes in for Origen. Now they're sitting with the gold lead. We're approaching, we've just gone past rather the 10-minute mark. And remember, Origen, like, if they get to a team fight stage, as long as Vitality aren't snowballing with the game, they're looking good. But I've seen this before from Origen. I know that they can have solid early games. It's usually around this time where the mistakes come about. If you guys have a look on your screens right now, they have extremely high deaths per minute, 9th in the league. They have very low kills per minute, and they're often at a gold deficit at the 15-minute mark.
Colt is here, looking for the smite steal. Doesn't actually have his smite, so it'll be very difficult for him to land it. Mowgli has his. Sonic Wave goes in. There it goes. Rift Herald secured by Mowgli and by Cabochard. And they will just be able to walk forward to it. Cole trying to get away, but can't get across the wall. Just about manages. Fibion's dead to pull it back, though. Until it chucks out a true shot barrage. And just as you said it, Vedius, OG give up a kill.
Really good punish there from Mowgli. He flashed in front of Cold so that he could not queue over the wall. Attila has also swapped up towards the top side of the map after picking up the Rift Herald. Vitality is saying, you know what, let's just get out of this 2v2. Our bot tower is going to drop soon anyway. Let's see if we can get something up towards the top side of the map. And this could even be first tower for Vitality. No, they're not actually going to use the Rift Tower.
Yeah, would have taken quite a bit of a chunk there if they were able to get that Rift Tower down, but they don't. Patrick and Mithy have swapped up towards top as well. Interested to see this as the decision. You could have left them bot and said, okay, there's only 2 plates down in this bottom lane. We can force the objective if we want.
But they know that they can have a winning 2v2, and they want to keep that going for as long as possible to put Attila behind while getting Patrick even further ahead. So that's why they want to keep it. Now we'll have a look back at how this play happened. You'll notice that Mithy is here as well, and so they should go for an all-in, but Mowgli uses his Q to literally sidestep Alfari's ultimate, and then here comes the flash. And war jump, flash in. Really good interrupt there from Mowgli. Will result in the kill. Now, a lot of summoning spells were burned on the side of Vitality, but they did secure a kill, and I'm sure they're going to be pretty happy picking this objective up as well.
Yeah, getting the Rift Herald just opens up the map a little bit more for them. If they use it correctly, we'll have to keep our eyes on that. But for Origen, they haven't died as much as they usually do, and they should be happy with that for the moment. Question is, can they stop themselves from dying in the next few minutes? Because if they do, we talked about how they want to get to 2 items and just go for team fights, and Vitality wanted to get to 2 items but have deep vision and have that pressure from being a little bit more ahead than the game is at the moment.
Yeah, right now, they're not ahead. So it's really difficult for them to actually generate enough pressure to go into the enemy jungle. The one advantage that Vitality do have is there's no one that can really handle the LeBlanc in a side lane outside of the Scion. So there will be that potential to play a bit more of a 1-3-1 composition if they want to. But in terms of being able to just wave clear and stall out for time, OG are in a great spot. They're feeling very happy. Now Vitality looking to actually set up on the mid lane.
That was, yeah, it was brave from Mowgli because Silence could have just come in. Cole's going to get the lockdown here as well, and that is a very deadly sin. The Rift Herald not even going to get towards the tower either. Doesn't matter if you get the objective, if you can't get it to the turret. Hit the eye quickly! They get it just in time. There will be a little bit less damage coming out from that Rift Herald, and that was a waste, to say the least, of that objective.
But great counter gank there from Colders. Remember that Mowgli already used his flash earlier on in the pit, and Nuketoke was just like, oh, if I ult him and my jungler's here, we can very easily kill him, and he'd never had an opportunity to move. So excellent stuff there from Origen, really good punish.
Can't ult Jizuke because he has the QSS, but if Mowgli is right in your face, you can definitely put the Nether Grasp down. I was about to say that Vitality, we talked about how they had, you know, a losing bottom lane but a winning mid lane matchup, and they'd used that well because they had this 25-26 CS lead and the bot lane's relatively even still, but when you sacrifice things like that and you give kills across towards the enemy mid lane, that's not the best place. Alfari touching around here, we'll pop the Decimating Smash down, but that might be enough. Fear beyond death. Cabochard just picking kills out of the woodwork, was not expecting that.
Medic.
Yes, Vedios.
Do you remember what we said about Origen?
they die a lot before the 50-minute mark. But Verius, they've got 2 kills this game as well.
I mean, that's true, but it still stands that their individual members are still dying. Alfari died 1v1 last week. We saw Cold getting picked off there, and while OG is still in a great spot, this game isn't over for them. Like, my biggest criticism of this team is that they die too much.
Yep.
And I feel like that is a very clear example of them dying unnecessarily. So we'll see, hopefully, as the game progresses. Again, the game isn't over yet. Their bot lane is still strong. They still have strong 5v5, and right now they're on a huge deficit that they won't be able to get there.
I mean,
so that
there's no
blunder,
deficit.
yeah, so that blunder is not going to hurt the team. It's just, it just kind of raises my alarm bells, you know?
It's one of those, did you need to make that mistake?
Yes.
Like, that's the big thing about it. And if you hadn't made the mistake, you'd be maybe even in gold instead of 200, 300 gold behind. But have to give credit to Cabochard across week 1 and some of week 2. He was one of the key carries for Vitality. And once again, on the Urgot, although nerf, he is still doing a very good job here. 2 kills to the good and a 500 gold bounty sitting on his head.
Excellent point there, Medic.
Thank you, Verius.
Definitely think that Cabochard has had a great couple of weeks. I know Yamato loves him to bits, and he loves to talk how great he is and how much of a voice he is on the team as well. But got to turn our attention to the mid lane, Medic.
As the Nethergrass comes out, Mithy there with the binding, but Jizuke can just use the distortion and the QSS. They'll be back up in just a short while's time as well. I think it's on a slightly longer cooldown than the ultimate from the Malzahar, so there is a tiny window of opportunity.
So. Yeah, I'll just quickly double check.
You check that and I'll talk about something while you check that. So Verius currently checking the Nethergrass cooldown. He's, the mechanics here as he hovers over them
So
both.
it's
Here we are.
60 seconds for the Malzahar ultimate, which is insanely
That's
short.
so short.
But it's because he's level 11, I guess.
And he has the cooldown boot.
Yeah, but it's 90 seconds for QSS.
Okay, so there's a 30-second window in which you can find your opportunity. Origen currently trying to find an opportunity to push in this
They're
mid lane.
grouping up now, though. Remember, this is the situation Origen want to find themselves in. No AD carry right now, but he's just pushed in top. He's making his way down to mid, and they're going to continue sieging onto this tower while Cabochard continues to split off on the side lane.
Because we did wonder who would deal with the LeBlanc in the side lane if the game got that far. But who can deal with the Urgot in the side lane at the moment? Because no one can deal with him. Alfari unable to do it. Nuke Duck will just stand there and push back the wave as much as possible. But Origen realized that they cannot do anything in that bottom lane, so instead they just group up mid. Missed the Glacial Prison, missed the binding, but they just wanted the tower more than anything else.
Yep. Now this will open up the map a lot more for Origen, and now they'll make their way towards the Dragon, where again they're staying as a 5. Alfari's lost a lot of farm towards the bot tower. I believe he's like nearly 3 waves now if this wave disappears as well. So hopefully Origen convert this into a Dragon objective, which will overall for the team make this worthwhile trade.
Yeah, but Cloud Drake isn't really the objective you want at this point in the game.
I still feel like the fact that it is an objective overall and it sets up for the next Drake in the game means that it's favorable. It means that roaming between the lanes is that much easier, and I'm never going to turn down a free objective. So I still think overall, definitely worthwhile for Origen.
I agree with you there. Let's have a look at these gold differences. It's about 2,000 gold between those 2 top laners. Cabochard actually sitting on 2k in his back pocket. The difference in the mid lane is pretty even, but the jungle difference, about 800 between those 2 as well.
Cold getting that extra assist, very far ahead in farm. Remember that with the nerfs in terms of experience, if you are just focused on farming, then you have the rate of respawn of the jungle camps more often, which means overall you get more XP, which is why you can see the difference between Cold and Bogey, and obviously if you're farming more camps, you get more gold, so that's why he is a little bit ahead. But what's more important to me is the fact that Jizuke and Nuke Duck are even. Vitality have not been able to find kills onto LeBlanc, and now we're 18.5 minutes into the game. This is where you get worried. This is where you're like, okay, my LeBlanc doesn't have kills, she hasn't really been able to generate any kind of pressure, and she needs to kind of get rolling soon, otherwise this is going to be a very difficult game.
One thing they do have though, Verius, is the deep vision you talked about in pick and ban. If we at some point look back up towards that top side of the map, you can see Ward here, Ward at the red buff, Mowgli getting in behind Alfari, but a great ultimate from Alfari will mean that he survives for the moment, but this deep vision does help out Vitality if they're trying to make these picks.
And you are right, these are the kind of picks that they're looking for, and you can see they're even trying to set up a bit of a dive onto Alfari. Very dangerous.
Mowgli's super squish.
But the rest of Origen are grouping up towards the bot side of the map, so they're still gaining advantages elsewhere.
Jizuke doesn't have the mana. That was brave, Jizuke.
Alfari just walks away with his life. So again, no kill onto Jizuke. Alfari will just have to back. But again, look at 3 members now heading towards the bot side of the map.
Can they kill Cabochard? The 2-0-0 Urgot gets locked up in the Glacial Prison but flashes away. And Origen will just have to settle for some chip damage on towards this turret. Won't even get any of that.
But still, Origen can feel quite happy with how the game is going right now.
I think we both agree on that point, right? We talked about Origen wanting to get to this team fight stage, wanting to get to 2.5 items. 20 minutes in, the gold is even between the two teams. They're very, very happy with the state of affairs.
See, because to kind of illustrate the difference, if Vitality was ahead and Origen made that group up play mid, then Origen would have lost a lot more than what they actually did. They only lost a bit of farm before, but if, say, the LeBlanc was much stronger, or that Cabochard was much stronger, then they could have maybe converted it into a tower, or it would have been harder for Origen to siege. So the fact that when they group they don't get punished is the key identifier that Origen are in a good and comfortable spot.
Vitality, not in the best of spots, obviously not done at all yet. You still have an Ezreal. You still got a Trinity Force Mana Moon complete here, not even going the Iceborne Gauntlet build, going for the extra damage out from that Ezreal.
And I kind of want to illustrate that scaling is a bit of a weird one in this game, because often when people look at scaling, they look at the AD carries and the mid laners, but the key differential is actually the front line. And it's a lot harder for a LeBlanc and an Ezreal to kill tanks than it is for Lucian and a Malzahar to kill the Lee Sin and the Urgot. So in terms of late game fights, you give the advantage to Origen because the front line will die faster for Vitality than it will for Origen's side.
Yeah, it's not even like you have a tanky support to back them up. You're getting redemption on the Thresh. Shizuke flashes away Patrick with the chase. Shizuke has to use double distortion to get back in the lane.
He was a little overextended there.
Yeah, a lot overextended, I think.
Because the rest of Vitality can't actually punish anything. They are able to get a lot of deep vision towards the top side of the map, which again is great in terms of being able to find picks and skirmishes. However, the fact is that their mid laner lost a flash, so that definitely is.
I feel like we're getting to the point now where Vitality can't quite find the same picks that they really want to. Like they would have done in the 15 to 20 minute mark, and probably would look to set up around the Baron once again. Like you have to force Origen to go for an objective, because otherwise they're just going to slowly wait out this game and take those team fights.
So do you remember last game when we were talking about, like, is it worth getting deep vision for XL?
I do.
So what I explained then was it's not worth it for XL to get deep vision, because they would actually rather have a team fight than try and look for picks. Vitality's the opposite. They want this deep vision because they don't actually want to fight for Baron. They want Origen to come and check the Baron, and then once Origen are in the enemy jungle that's dark, then Vitality will find a pick, which they can then hopefully convert into the Baron. But starting the Baron would be very dangerous and risky for the side of Vitality.
Entirely agree with you, Vedius. Once again, on point with the analysis.
Cheers.
And I think the way that we predicted this game to go as well is pretty much the way it's gone. Although well, as we were building up to the game, we said Vitality clear favorites. I think if I gave you the option right now to change that choice, to say who is the favorite to win this game from this position, I wonder if you would keep with Vitality.
I would flip-flop. I would flip-flop. Right now, if we're looking at percentages, I think Origen has a higher percentage chance of winning, because the longer the game goes, the tankier that front line gets, the harder it is for Vitality to really find those fights.
I love a good percentage. What are we giving us?
I'm going to give Origen right now a 65% chance of winning.
65%?
Yes.
When they've only won 25% of their games so far.
Yep.
It's a pretty brave one, Vedius.
Mountain Drake goes over to Vitality. From a comp perspective, you know, and so if you assume that both teams play their compositions the way they're intended to, then that is Origen actually arguably have a higher percentage than that. But that's kind of been one of the problems for Origen, in that they often die so much that they can't actually execute.
But they haven't died that much this game.
And that's the big difference. You're right, Medic. But you can still see that the goal is actually starting to mount more and more for Vitality, and that's largely, I think, because of Cabochard just continuing to extend his lead off in a side lane. So, but he's right now, Origen actually setting up around the Baron, clearing out some of his vision. It's just more and more farming.
I do love a good bit of farming. As a support, you don't really get to.
Sorry, when you started that sentence, I thought, wow, I never knew that Medic was a farmer.
My mother was a farmer, actually.
Wait, what does she farm?
Sheep and lamb.
Oh, that's a very common thing in Wales.
Yes, my mother grew up around Wales. It's something we've lived together for a year. We've never really talked about it.
Wow, and you know no Welsh?
No. Because that's not really a language. You put two, like, 15 consonants together to make a word. It's not how language is created.
Pal, we have a wonderful accent, and you can't afford to call our language silly,
I mean,
right?
okay, I think you've proven my point by speaking in English with the accent rather than in Welsh.
Achos ti ddim gallu deall Cymraeg. Ti'n iawn?
Du bist ein Kartoffelkopf. Here we go. Coming in as well, Vitality won the fight. They need to do something. Newton flashes away. Mowgli getting out of the fight. But Jizuke out towards the top side. Onto Patrick. Jetro there as well. The hook connects. Can Jizuke get the damage down? Patrick's still alive. Jizuke takes him out and survives. Alfari now there as well. But Attila It's a double for Jizuke, and now Mythic Cold and Alfari have to run for the hills because the chase is on. Hook does not connect. Ends up being a 2 for 2 in
Attila's
the
on the
river.
chase.
Attila still going forward. Mickey flashes away. Cold has the blast cone and will use it to escape. Jack Troll finds Alfari. And Alfari, not long for the Summoner's Rift, you have to feel. Blast cones away, but eventually will get taken out by Cabochard.
Now, I wasn't expecting Vitality to just start a fight. That was not the kind of play that you would usually expect, but Vitality is so confident in their ability to just outperform their opposition that they just go for these gambles anyway. So the TP just comes into the mid lane, and it's just a brawl in the middle of, or just around the Baron. They're not even playing around an objective right now, it is just a fight. And Jizuke goes on to the duo of Mithy and Patrick, and he actually ends up finding the kill. The fact that the carry didn't have any form of protection is how Vitality get that initial lead, but Nukeduck is still alive. He's able to find the kill onto Jizuke, but not before Jizuke gets another kill. So the fact that it ends up being 2 for 2 overall looks good, but then Alfari can't get out of this situation. He ends up losing his life, so Vitality take a small lead. But this is why I talked about percentages and how like you can never really rely on those because it comes down to execution. And the thing about Vitality is they have so much confidence in their individual play that they take these gambles that on paper shouldn't work, but just do because of players like the Italian stallion on your screen.
It's the 51% play that we talk about from time to time. Teams who are willing to gamble on a play where you only win 51% of the time because they just think they are better than their opponents. Oh, I was not expecting that either, I'll be honest, but Vitality took the fight. They didn't really have to work their way through the Origen front line, through that tank line, which is what they might struggle with. Jizuke, and a little bit too aggressive. Great glacial prison lands. The Culling not quite connected from the side. Now Cabochard is on that front line. Silence up. Origen might want to just keep on with this fight, but Jizuke jumps forward once again. Both teams just facing down in the mid lane. Cabochard can't quite land those.
What was used there? Flash is gone for Jizuke, teaming down for Attila. A lot of summoner spells actually unavailable. Patrick still has his flash though. That'll be a really big factor moving into the next team fight that we're expecting. Vitality now have just grouped up as 5. Just for the record, typically not how you play this composition with an Ezreal and a LeBlanc. Vitality don't care.
It is typical Vitality though.
That
Group up mid and fight. Throw your face into their face for as long as you can.
We haven't seen it for a while, but definitely when they're when they're struggling to know what the next best step is, they just go, you know what, let's just fight. It worked against RNG, and so far it is working against Origins. They sit on a 2,000 gold lead.
27 minutes in, we're looking at those second and a half completed items here. QSS, 4 of them now on Vitality. Makes it so much harder for Nukeduck to isolate that one target, but he's got the Rylai's, he's got the Haunting guys. You've got Black Cleaver finished on Patrick as well to try and work his way through that front line, which is still very squishy. Really only Cabochard, the main tank, on the side of Vitality.
Well, Vitality needs to get their sideways under control. You can see a big wave pushing in the top side of the map. The bot lane is also pushing. Cabo doesn't have teleport, neither does Attila, so definitely not a good situation for Vitality to be in, and OG can just keep the pressure up here, because the moment Vitality go to answer, they can then threaten something else on the map, and it looks like it's going to be the Cloud Drake for now.
Yeah, they all group down towards this bottom side. Had the Cloud Drake, could have gone for Vision around Baron as well, deep if they wanted to get it, but decide against it. 2,000 gold in the game, second Cloud Drake for Origen. And still, the tension mounts. Big bounties on the side of Vitality. Cabochard sitting on a K. 850 on Vitality as well. And those 4 QSSs available for Vitality right now.
4 medic.
Yep.
Every single member has just been like, no, Nukeduck, you will not be allowed to press your ultimate. We will all make you redundant, but it's also great against all the single targets. You see they've got the Morgana, the Sejuani ultimate. There is value across the board in picking this up, and I think it will make their team fighting a lot stronger, given that you have all this extra mobility now. Something that we haven't really talked about is Ezreal has a dash, LeBlanc has a lot of dashes, you have Lee Sin with all these dashes, and then there's also the Lantern on the Thresh to get you out of any sticky situations. So there's so much mobility on this side of Vitality that they might not even need to kill the front line. They can just kind of dance around it, kill the people on the back, and then with a numbers advantage, kill the front line afterwards. So perhaps that's kind of the angle that Vitality is looking for right now.
It's one of those back-to-front team fights. You take out the back line and then you work your way through the front line. I knew it would come back one day, Venice. Cabochard waiting in the bush. Spotted out by Mithy, dodges away. This is it. You have to feel.
Jizuke?
Jizuke's at the top.
All
He's got
right.
that fine position.
But he's going to get spotted on this vision. so Origen will back away from this. It means that they don't have any vision around the Baron though, so Vitality will maintain control over the river. They push top and bot out, I believe. I think bot is pushing in their favor anyway.
Bot is, top is as well. Here comes the culling. Mowgli jumps away. Just trying to chip away at the health buzz of Vitality. Origen taking the most direct path down the mid lane. They've got the pressure there. They have that lane pushed up. Jizuke jumps onto Nuke Duck. Glacial Prison comes out as well. Alfari exhausted. Cole pushed towards Mowgli, who uses his QSS. That's one down. Nuke Duck still has his ultimate. He's still got the Soul Shackles. He's still got the binding. Vitality. Now they know they have the vision control at the Baron. Will they just go
they're
straight
just
forward?
starting it. All right, well, Cold's ultimate is down. Patrick's ultimate is down. Ooh. Sorry, that was a weird noise. Face checks.
Jumped on, flashes away. Black Shield keeps him. Mowgli! That's why you bring him into your team. The three-man kick catches Origen off guard, and Vitality come out massive in the fight, all off the back of Mowgli.
Oh my word! Mowgli just smashed Mithy in the face. Just no hesitation, went over the wall. He gets a beautiful kick onto three members, and I thought that could have been the team fight right then and there, but unfortunately for Vitality, they can't convert it into much else. Origen, though, still have pressure. Nuke Duck has actually going back to base. The Baron hasn't been started off yet.
Cabo's waiting in base with teleport as well, so he can join this fight if he wants. Mowgli sitting at the back of the pit, no ultimate on him. True Shot Barrage comes out, it's Cold, there's the teleport as well. Origen, they just want to get out of this. Cold caught up, that's the jungler down, and now Vitality will turn straight back towards the Baron. They've started it up.
That vision finally coming in handy for Vitality. That pick is all they wanted, and now with no smite available on Origen, Vitality are able to secure the objective. I think if they go for a fight now, it's dangerous.
They've gone through it. Mowgli smites it down to about half HP though. Alfari in the front line, jumps back. Cabochard with the chase. QSS used, Unstoppable Onslaught used to get away. Patrick maybe thinks he can do something here, looking for the dashes around. But Vitality get out 5 men strong once again.
And they walk away with the Baron. Vitality continue to impress me. This composition should not be winning team fights, but they itemize to accommodate. They find these picks, they find these creative ways of kicking off these fights, and I am nothing but impressed. Beautiful stuff from the side of Vitality. I really hope we can get a replay of that kick, because it was just so good from Mowgli.
It was impeccable stuff. 5,000 gold lead for Vitality now. 32 minutes in the game. It's not the most monumental, not the most substantial, but it gives them a very strong chance of closing out this game now, because you can just 1-4. You could even 1-3-1. You've got a big Urgot, you've got a big LeBlanc. Now sitting at 2.5 completed items, and let's have another look at this, because Mowgli, this is exactly what he does.
So the important thing is Mowgli doesn't get spotted going over the wall. They have no idea, and the kick actually goes onto Nuke Duck to get the double knockup, and then they just land all the long-range poke to secure a kill onto Mithy.
It's just beautiful.
The execution was just so good from Mowgli, and it was just such great utilization of vision as well, knowing that Origen won't see him create this flank to then come in from the backside and set up that play.
I mean, you might have called them the stone cold pillars. Whenever we've talked about Mowgli, we've talked about how strong he is mechanically, and he showed us exactly there. Vitality grouped up 4 in this bottom lane, 1 in the mid lane. Jizuke just getting that extra push. And Mowgli once again, that's a sonic wave. They got the suppression down. Cabochard flashes away. The QSS used a little bit too late, but here's Jizuke. Look at the backline. Look at the block. Alfari hook lands onto a Cold, but Jizuke's still there. And all 3 members of Origen just had to try and react to him until it already got Cold. And Jizuke jumps away. That's 2 for Vitality. Jizuke, the bodyguard on the backline. And already Vitality can push him with this Baron.
Origen tried to go for the fight, but they can't pull it off. They're too far behind now. The redemption will come through. Vitality's 4 members will continue the siege, and with the front line down for Origen, they've got nothing left to stop the onslaught of Vitality.
Once again, Origen just getting caught out, dying in the wrong places, and Vitality are the team. They are the stone cold killers, the ones that will capitalize immediately on that. Now they're going to push mid. This will be their second inhibitor tower of the game. Jizuke is quite low. Maybe Nuke Duck thinks he has a chance to catch someone out.
Looking to secure the second inhibitor of the game. They need to back away though. The tanks are respawning on the side of Origen. Vitality can be pretty happy with what they've picked up for themselves. Beautiful stuff from Vitality once again. 34 minutes in, they're looking great. Let's have a look back at this team fight. So things start off by engaging onto Cabochard. They think if they can just blow him up, then they'll be in a great spot. Alfari actually misses his ultimate onto Cabo. That might have been enough damage rather, to convert that into a kill. But then once Origen burn everything, the rest of the team then immediately retreats. This leaves the 2 frontliners to the 4 members of Vitality, who can then freely hit onto those members. And Nuke Duck, I believe, even ran out of mana.
No mana at all in that fight. And
so
Yeah, just so difficult for Origen to actually do anything there because, as you say, there's such a separation between frontline and backline. Jizuke had a great flanking position, and now we see Vitality going for this push. They've got Origen members up in the top lane. They know they can just push for this inhibitor.
Their Baron still has a couple seconds left on it. They'll utilize every second to secure another objective. And there's Jizuke continuing to zone them off. Now there's only one lane left. Remember that the Baron respawn timer has dropped in Season 9, which means that the next Baron will not be that far away, and Elder Dragon will be spawning relatively soon too. And with this much control over the map, Vitality are looking good.
Yeah, there was a Cloud Drake taken while we were watching that last replay by Vitality, so it's probably about 4 or 5 minutes away before we see that Elder. Vitality can just push in this top lane. You can just see how that gold has skyrocketed for Vitality in the last couple of minutes.
And it's just so impressive because, you know, we talk so much about how I think, you know, the chances of winning get that much lower. OG won a team fight, and it's going to be really hard for Vitality to 5v5, but they go, yeah, no, like, we're really good players. We can just outplay them. And that's exactly what they did in these team fights. And they did it so many times, and again, they itemized correctly, everyone building a QSS to mitigate all this crowd control, and they just found a way to team fight against a composition that should be there. And now, OG go for a final fight.
Glacier Prism lands on Attila, but he doesn't even use the QSS. There's a decent smash from Alfari. Vitality caught up a little bit. Mowgli jumps onto the backline, goes golden already. Look at the damage coming out. The Fear Beyond Death, that's one Fear off. Cold gets caught out as well. Attila's jumped over the wall, uses the QSS to get away from Alfari and will escape. And Vitality once again get 2 kills for nothing.
Oh, there's Jizuke going over the wall. The spell shield comes in, so Patrick is able to back off, but all 5 members are still alive for Vitality. Their front line soaked up so much damage, and again, it's supposed to be easier for Origen to kill the frontline than it is for Vitality, but Cabochard is so tanky. Mowgli with a great stopwatch to zone Patrick away from the front line means that Vitality were able to melt through Alfari and Cold, and now they have their eyes set on this final inhibitor.
It's almost like Vitality are drawing the fights into separate skirmishes. You've got Mowgli jumping on the backline, separating Patrick from his team. You've got Attila diving towards the side as well. It feels like they're not playing one big team fight, they're playing their own individual battles against the enemy backline.
You know, we talked about their mobility medic, and I thought it would be Jizuke and Mowgli utilizing this, you know, their dash speed to just dive onto the back, but it's actually just the front line. And Cabo, again, he just soaks up so much for his team. Look at his positioning. Right at the front, he absorbs the Alfari ultimate, he absorbs all of Alfari's damage, he's absorbing all of these ultimates, and now there's nothing left for the rest of Vitality, so this means Jizuke and Attila are free to just dash in. There's nothing that they have to be afraid of, and even though Origen are underneath their turret, they lose their tanks. Now Vitality is just waiting for the next Baron to spawn, and they'll use that to try and end the game.
We have a 9,000 gold lead, 37 minutes in. Double dragons for them, the Baron on the cards as well. 11 kills to 4. It hasn't been the most bloody affair, but it has been much more the vitality that Yamato Cannon promised us this year. Hasn't been explosive until these later game teams, like the early game. Very measured, very calm from them. Cabochard going in, Mowgli lands the Sonic Wave, teleport comes out from Origen straight away. That means the Super Minion's going to be able to push in that bottom lane though, and so Origen, at some point you just got to go for the engage. On some onslaught used, already Alfari down to that 2/3 HP. Cold caught out with a hook. Once again, Jetral on point. The Glacier Prism misses, but nothing from Vitality's missing. Even the Fear Beyond Death lands from long range. Patrick gets a good amount of damage down with the Light Slinger, but those minions are on the Nexus towers now, Vedius.
Yeah, they're pushing into the base of Origen. Vitality still have all their members alive, and plenty of ultimates are up and ready. Jizuke even running up to the top lane to try and secure another objective, and Vitality just dancing around the ban, forcing Origen into this impossible decision. Do you lose your base or do you lose the ban? Either way, you lose, Origen.
Nukeduck's already gone back to try and deal with Jizuke, but unable to do too much. Can't stop him taking the inhibitor. Cold.
Jizuke's coming back.
Jizuke's coming back. It's going to be a 4v5. No teleport on Nukeduck. Baron resets, but Vitality don't even really want it yet. They're going to start it up once again. Here comes Jizuke. Jumps in no vision. Cold has the opportunity to jump forward. Vitality have disengaged from the Baron. There's Patrick. Goes forward with the black shield. Gets some damage down. There's the unstoppable onslaught. Alfari pushes them into the pit, but Cabochard holds the Fear Beyond Death. He's going to pull him back into the meat grinder, and he pushes forward. A 3-man affair, and Origen have a lot to be scared of. They get the shot down. Patrick's turning it around. Jizuke might be going for the base. Well, this is happening, though. 3 kills over to Origen. Attila trying to keep them interested, trying to keep his hopes of winning the game alive, because Jizuke is going for the base.
This actually ends up being a massive teamfight win for Origen. I wasn't expecting that to be the case, and Attila just trying to buy time for Jizuke, but he won't be able to end the game off the back of this. Patrick is able to go back to base, and Origen keeps their hopes alive. They somehow are able to turn this one around, and I need to see how this replay comes about, because that was impressive stuff from Origen. I don't actually know how they won that fight. It looked awful at the beginning.
Let's have another look at this.
So let's have a look here. So keep your eyes on what Patrick is up to in this fight. He has the spell shield, he doesn't get CC'd up. Right now he's just sitting behind his front line. He's hitting whoever is closest to him. So he prioritizes killing Cabochard. Flashes still gets feared though, but still at full health. Then the attention gets turned onto the front line. And obviously, Jizuke actually isn't in the fight. Jizuke's not threatening the back lane, so this time Cold actually gets to hit the tanks. And I feel like that is the biggest difference. The fact that Patrick wasn't zoned away and able to dish damage meant that Origen could actually come out on top.
I think you have to give credit to Nukeduck as well. Locking up Cabochard as he was about to get onto Patrick with that Netherglass meant that Patrick could get out of the fear, could then start putting the damage down. Of course, the Lucian can do a lot of work, but look at the damage coming out from Attila. This is what we talked about with the tanks, right? Attila did the most damage in that fight, but you can't always work your way all the way through that Origen tank line.
There's a lot of HP,
and
so he keeps landing Qs, and it does hurt, but it's not as effective.
Okay, so 2 Nexus Towers left for Origen. Third inhibitor going to be spawning that top lane pretty soon. 2 are up now. There's still a 6,000 gold lead, gold difference between the two teams, but it's less than 10% of each of the team's gold, so it's not really that consequential anymore.
Look at the items, man. Look at the items. Infinity Edge is now done for Patrick. He's nearly at full build, and the same can be said for Attila. So Nukeduck completed 4 of his items as well, and there's a Liandry's and Void Staff in there. So this is still a really scary composition from Origen. They've actually been able to survive the fact that they had 2 inhibitors down and an exposed 3rd one. And now with the Baron alive, Elder Dragon up as well, Origen still have a shot in this game.
They definitely do, but you have to feel, all it takes is one person to make one mistake. And now Vitality are trying to pull the trigger on a play. They teleport into the Baron. Origen nowhere near answering this. You see lots of pings coming down towards the Elder Dragon, but I don't think they realize that the Baron is there. No, Vitality, great TPs in, will secure the Baron for themselves. 42 minutes in, it's their second of the game.
Now, but look at Jizuke. Jizuke's going straight to top lane. They're pinging the base. Vitality know what Origen's plan is, and they're saying, well, you know what? Now you're going to be forced into another impossible decision. Either fight for the Elder Dragon or come and defend. And it looks like they're just sending Nukeduck to defend. Mowgli has no idea they're sending in that bush.
Nukeduck is an item ahead of Jizuke now. Of course, that QSS denies you that extra ability to get the item. Minty has to pop the black shield on his flash. That's a flash position. Redemption comes out, but Jizuke has the flank, and Vitality are in the perfect spot to find this fight. Mowgli chases out Bari off, already one down. Albari kicked back into the team. Mowgli jumps forward again. Here comes Nukeduck, but already Albari is down. 2 kills for Vitality, and Origen are licking their wounds as they run back to base.
Origen trying to set up the trap, but it is Vitality that springs it onto them. Now 2 members are dead. Vitality are looking to end this game.
Jizuke pops the QSS. It's all on Patrick and Nukeduck. You have the feel, but Vitality's still so healthy until it takes the silence to the face. Call of the Void, perhaps calling him to his demise. 15 kills to 7 up. Vitality closing in on the win.
Origen, the last-ditch effort to keep their hopes and dreams of this game alive. Vitality looking to make their way further in the standings. Here we go.
First Nexus Tower down. Cole tries to defend, but he's already hooked up. The second Nexus Tower shot to follow. Jizuke jumps onto the back line. Nukeduck and Patrick forced out. And the Nexus has to be the target now for Vitality. They secure their 4th win in a row with a victory over Origen.